People who don't want to work should really leave. That way, we can hire new employees. I'd rather see younger workers than watching an old lady in her 60s, like you, with a tired face working. I'd enjoy my job more. Ever since the sincere manager John was replaced by the new manager Bob, all he cares about is efficiency, not considering the customers. Furthermore, he condescendingly refers to us veteran employees as old ladies and only seems interested in young girls. He's just insufferable. No one, neither I nor the part-time workers, could have imagined that such things would happen just a month after he took over. My name is Catherine, 63 years old. I currently live with my husband. We have a son, but he's now living on his own. I started working part-time at the local supermarket as soon as my child started elementary school. That was already 20 years ago. The supermarket I work at is a community-based small-scale store, run by manager John, a few staff members, and the rest are part-time or casual workers. When I was hired, I had requested to work short hours, but as my child grew older, I asked for more part-time hours. The supermarket's management seemed to have been going quite smoothly up until now. A few years ago, they underwent a significant renovation, giving the store a beautiful makeover. The size of the store doubled from what it was before, and the variety of products increased considerably. Since then, the business has continued to prosper. I believe the reason for the long-standing stable management is because of manager John's excellent personality. He actively and cheerfully communicates with customers, is kind to the elderly, and is a genuinely wonderful person. It was a very comfortable working environment for us part-timers. However, one day, out of the blue, he announced he would be leaving the store. I couldn't believe my ears. I can't believe manager John is quitting. Maybe he's sick? I'm so worried. Those were the thoughts running through my mind as I finished my shift that day. The next morning, during the morning meeting, manager John himself gave the announcement. I've mentioned this before, so many of you might already know. I've decided to leave this supermarket, which I've loved for many years. The moment he said that, there was a murmur among the employees. Many of you probably want to know why I'm leaving. As some of you might be aware, I've had chronic back pain. It has gotten worse over the past few months, and I've had to visit the hospital multiple times. Since I knew about his back pain, the reason made sense to me. I've firmly decided to step down for now. My wife supports my decision. I hope the employees here can understand and accept my decision. As he said this, a loud applause erupted from the employees. Some even had tears in their eyes. He was indeed a beloved figure among us. I too felt a lump in my throat. Continuing, he said, my successor will be a man named Bob. If anyone here wishes to continue supporting this store, please do so under the new management. We all nodded in agreement. Then, with his usual bright smile, he said, thank you all for everything. The next day, a special morning meeting was held. Today, we have my successor, the new manager Bob here. I'll now hand it over to him. It was the transition time from manager John to the new manager Bob. I was inwardly excited, wondering what kind of person he might be. Then, a tall man stepped up beside manager John and began to speak. Hello everyone. My name is Bob, and I'll be taking over as the manager of this store. I look forward to working with you all. All the employees applauded in unison. Manager John then added, for about the next week, due to various handover tasks, both I and the new manager Bob will be coming to the store to work. I expect manager Bob might visit different departments, including the kitchen areas, so I hope you all will support him. Initially, looking at the new manager, I thought he seemed sincere and believed I could work well under his leadership. However, during the period when we had two managers, strange rumors were circulating in our store. Our supermarket became a subsidiary of a certain company a few years ago. This company became our parent company, and the rumor was that the new manager Bob was a relative of the president of that parent company and got his position through connections. To me, whether manager Bob got the position through connections or not didn't matter as long as he fulfilled his responsibilities as a manager. But after the dual management period ended and Bob took over, something unexpected happened. Manager Bob announced he was going to change the store's policy. Since I'm the manager now, please follow my instructions. Conversations among employees, and especially with customers, should be minimized. Casual chat and small talk only distract from work. If I catch anyone chatting unnecessarily, be prepared for a lecture. I felt uneasy about these sudden directives. Until now, conversations with customers had led to changes in the products we stocked or adjustments in quantity. Furthermore, the friendly atmosphere where customers and employees could easily chat was one of our store's proud features. But now Bob was demanding a change, and both the part-time workers and the other employees were bewildered. Since Bob took over, the conversations between employees have decreased. Even when communicating about work, we'd check our surroundings to make sure Bob wasn't watching. Also, interactions with customers declined. If caught talking to a customer, employees would later be called aside by Manager Bob for a reprimand. This became a daily occurrence. We followed his directives because it was the store policy, but the store's atmosphere only deteriorated. On my day off, I went shopping at another nearby supermarket. Usually, I shop at the supermarket where I work, but I didn't want to see Bob's face, even on my day off. That's when I saw Mrs. Smith, one of our regular customers, shopping there. She was talking to someone, and even though it was rude, I eavesdropped. She was talking about our supermarket. I usually shop at that supermarket, but lately, the atmosphere has been off. Apparently, there's a new manager, and the store's vibe has completely changed. The staff used to be so friendly, but not anymore. I'm thinking of not shopping there anymore. I whispered to myself. Oh no. That was the moment I realized that our customers were drifting away. When I shared this with other part-timers on my next workday, several had similar experiences. Furthermore, in the customer feedback section at the store entrance, there were complaints about the recent atmosphere. There were also online reviews giving the store 1 star, stating they'd never return because of the dark atmosphere. We decided to report these facts to the manager and boldly conveyed our concerns. But Bob refused to change the policy. All of you, who have worked in the supermarket for years, don't seem to understand. If you spend time with one customer, you lose out on other tasks. You still get paid while you chit-chat or do things unrelated to work. I want all of you, especially part-timers, to prioritize efficiency. Indeed, focusing on efficiency might be crucial for running a business. However, not all conversations with customers are a waste of time. Assisting the elderly with packing might not be a direct job responsibility, but taking care of customers is essential. Just when I thought the discussion with Bob was over, he suddenly looked furious and began again. By any chance, did any of you purposely post those negative online reviews? Are you trying to tarnish my reputation? If I find out that any of you are involved in this, I'll fire you immediately. Be prepared. With that, Manager Bob left the scene. Manager Bob completely distrusts us. At the same time, our trust in Manager Bob has dwindled. Other part-time workers looked equally exasperated. A few days passed, and as I was restocking items in the store, I spotted the regular old lady I had seen shopping at another supermarket the other day. I thought to myself, I'm glad she came back. Luckily, the manager was out at that moment. Taking a chance, I decided to speak with her. Mrs. Smith, hello. Lovely weather today, isn't it? Mrs. Smith looked slightly surprised. Oh my, it's been a while since you've spoken to me. I've missed our chats. It felt nostalgic. I wondered why no one spoke to me recently. Apologizing for the recent aloofness, I mentioned that I had seen her shopping at another supermarket and had overheard her talking about our store. Mrs. Smith responded candidly. I've been shopping at this supermarket for years, but lately, the atmosphere has taken a turn for the worse. The neighborhood's been talking. I suppose it's because of the new manager, isn't it? I was taken aback by the speed and efficiency of the neighborhood's grapevine. But as someone who's worked here for years, I couldn't stay silent. Mrs. Smith sighed and continued. I loved the healthy food from the deli section here. But ever since the new manager took over, they've been replaced with oily ones that seem to target younger people. Could you ask the manager to restock the healthy ones? Please. I wanted to say yes immediately, but I doubted Bob would agree so easily. I promised Mrs. Smith I'd try, but fulfilling her request seemed challenging. Later that evening, after Bob returned, I gathered the courage to approach him, even though I lacked confidence. Excuse me, manager. I wanted to discuss something. What is it? Let me guess, another pointless suggestion? If you have time for that, get back to work. Don't you dare tell me how to run things. Bob shouted at me with a fierce tone. At this point, he wouldn't even have a proper conversation. The thought of working with him long-term began to sour. But I wasn't the only one who felt that way. Over the next few days, several part-timers handed in their resignations. However, Bob seemed to have a let-them-go attitude and accepted their resignations without hesitation. He then approached me, smirking. "It's easier without the workers who don't want to work. Now, I can hire new ones. I'd rather see younger people working here than watch someone in their 60s like you with a weary face." Apparently, his vision for the supermarket involved replacing older employees with young girls. I couldn't understand his thinking and felt that this would backfire someday. But Bob proved to be even more proactive than I'd expected. He started by advertising high-wage, part-time jobs to local high school and college girls. Attracted by the high pay, 5 girls applied. Bob decided to hire all 5. But these girls wore flashy makeup and shiny piercings, not the ideal look for a supermarket dealing with food. Their language was also coarse, and honestly, the rest of us part-timers were filled with anxiety. Furthermore, Bob was so engrossed in chatting with these girls that he barely worked. Angered by his behavior, I decided to confront Bob directly. "Manager, this has to stop. Because you're not working, we're bearing the brunt of the workload. Plus, if you continue with these strange reforms, we'll lose our regular customers. At this rate, this supermarket will go under." Upon hearing this, Manager Bob glared at me and shouted, "The regular customers of this store are all elderly and boring. To survive in the upcoming times, we need to prioritize younger, trend-sensitive customers. Otherwise, we'll fall behind the times and soon be out of business. Part-timers who don't understand business should stay out of it." Bob's attitude became even more arrogant than before. Now, he didn't even use polite language with us, the older employees. Bob then questioned me sternly. "By the way, I've received a barrage of complaints about your work attitude lately. Apparently, you're always chatting away and not getting much done. Customers see it. Now, apologize." I was shocked by Bob's statement. "Why should I apologize to you? And do you have any proof of these numerous complaints?" Ignoring my query, Bob yelled, "Just apologize. If you don't like it here, leave." My patience with Manager Bob had reached its limit. I no longer felt the desire to work at this supermarket. "All right then. I'll quit, effective immediately. Thank you for everything until now." With that, I left the supermarket. After I left, other staff and part-timers also resigned. Eventually, only Bob and the student part-timers remained in the store. He probably enjoyed the environment, being surrounded by young girls. But I wondered what would happen when they went to school. Could he manage the store on his own? It wasn't my problem anymore. I found a new job at another nearby supermarket. There, my many years of experience were appreciated, and I was warmly welcomed. A month later, I visited my former place of employment. Curiosity led me there, but I was mainly concerned about its state. Suddenly, I heard a loud female voice from inside. "I can't stand this attitude. I'll never shop here again." Exiting the store was Mrs. Smith, whom I had encountered previously. I was surprised by Mrs. Smith's outburst. She approached and said, "Oh, Catherine. Are you working today?" "No, actually, I've left this supermarket." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Smith looked shocked. "What happened? Was there some trouble?" I inquired about the reason for her earlier outburst. "I bought some deli food this morning, and it was rotten. When I complained, the manager told me it was my poor handling. If you've left, then I have no reason to shop here anymore. It used to be such a good store." I felt sympathy for the visibly upset Mrs. Smith. Entering the supermarket, I found it completely empty, except for Bob standing alone. To my surprise, there were no customers at all. Inside the store, Manager Bob stood alone, looking dejected. I muttered to myself, "Serves him right." I considered taunting him with, "It's pretty quiet in here, huh?" But ultimately decided against it, feeling a bit sorry for him. Suddenly, Bob began making a desperate phone call. "Please, I need your help." I had no idea what he was seeking assistance for, but he looked quite panicked. As I roamed around the store, Bob approached me. "What did I do wrong? After you left, other employees also left, and even the young girls resigned. At this rate, this store will really go under. My relative, the company's president, confronted me harshly yesterday. I just don't know what to do. In response to Bob's desperate plea, I simply said, "You reap what you sow." Bob collapsed, bursting into tears. Suddenly, two men entered the store. One of them was John, the former manager of the supermarket. "Isn't that Catherine? Long time no see." "It's been a while. What brings you here today?" Even though it had only been a month, having seen him daily at work made it feel much longer. "Well, we've decided to bring in a new manager to turn this supermarket around." The man beside John spoke up. "Nice to meet you. I'll be the new manager of this supermarket. My name is Lucas. I believe you've heard about me from the company president and former manager John. I look forward to working with you." Bob nodded slightly. Lucas grew up in the heart of New York and is a very sincere and compassionate man. "We believe he's the right person to improve this store." Bob looked up, his face full of uncertainty. "So, what's going to happen to me?" "By order of the company president, you'll be returning to the parent company, effective today. Naturally, you won't have any managerial position. You'll be on the same level as a new hire." "But, why?" Bob was deeply shocked to hear he'd be demoted to a regular employee. I thought he should be grateful he even had a position to return to. Then, the new manager, Lucas, turned to me. "I'll do my part as a manager, but to start from this state is honestly tough. I'd really appreciate it if seasoned part-timers like you could lend your expertise to help restore this store." John also said, "Please." I replied, "If there's an opportunity to return, I'd gladly accept." And so, I rejoined the supermarket I'd served for many years. Several of the part-timers who had quit during Bob's tenure also returned after hearing of his departure. Now, with manager Lucas at the helm, we're working hard, listening to the local community, and striving to make the supermarket better. There's been a gradual return of customers. And it's uplifting to see. Meanwhile, I heard Bob was working hard at the company owned by his relative. Apparently, he was quite unhappy being treated the same as a new employee. It turned out the earlier claim about numerous complaints regarding my work attitude was entirely fabricated. This falsehood had come to light with the company president, and Bob faced severe repercussions. I thought, well, he got what he deserved. I now thoroughly enjoy my work. It's astounding how different things can be just because of a change in management. I realized the importance of having the right person at the top. I hope this supermarket continues to be a wonderful place that brings smiles to the local community. With that commitment in mind, as a veteran part-timer, I'll do whatever it takes, and today, like every day, I'm working with enthusiasm.